Good day. Welcome to Westchester Talk Radio, westchestertalkradio.com. Happy holidays. I'm John Marino, and this is what's happening in the lower Hudson Valley. We are produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that Service built, by Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armonk, also by Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth through a fiduciary standard, and also by Jaguar Land Rover of New Rochelle, White Plains, and Mount Kisco. Here we are, smack dab in the middle of the holiday season here in Westchester, and we are joined now by a couple of the key figures at the Greenville Community Church in Scarsdale, Senior Minister Sam Clover, and also the music director at Greenville Community Church, that is David Shenton. Upcoming on Sunday, December 18th at 3 p.m. there will be a free concert called A Jazz Christmas at the church. Gentlemen, welcome both. We'll begin with you, Sam Clover, Senior Minister. Tell us about the mission of the Greenville Community Church.
Hey, John, first of all, good to be with you today, and thanks so much for the opportunity. I think the simplest way to talk about the mission of Greenville Church is to talk about community. I often like to say community is our middle name, Greenville Community Church, and I am fairly new to the church. I started as senior minister just this past August, so I'm still learning the area and the congregation, but is a warm and wonderful and inviting and welcoming community that's just great to be a part of. And
now, we think of this church as non-denominational, but that's not really so, correct?
That's correct. Our roots are in where we're affiliated with a national denomination called the Reformed Church in America, which a lot of people might know as the old Dutch Reformed Church. And it goes back actually to 1628, when the Dutch settled in southern Manhattan and the denomination grew with successive waves of Dutch immigration. I myself am not Dutch, and most of our congregation is not Dutch. It kind of grew from that, though.
But there might be somebody Dutch mixed in here and there, right?
Absolutely. And of course, southern Westchester and going north up to Albany was a big area of Dutch settlement. In fact, right in Greenville, there's a historic cemetery in which a lot of familiar names in the area, like the Underhills, their ancestors are buried there. So that is actually a part of this church. So it was a key part of the settlement of this greater area, in colonial times. So, but today we are a fully affirming and welcoming church. All people are welcome here. We're interested in serving the community and really sharing love and light wherever we go. And part of that is our music program. And I'm so delighted to work with David Shenton, who is an amazing pianist, composer, arranger. He has his own trio, which he'll tell you about, I'm sure. But it's just been it's been great for me as a pastor and a jazz lover. I've been a jazz lover all my life, to work with someone that's so talented and intuitive, and really brings life to our worship services and through concert opportunities like this Saturday.
David
Sunday.
Shenton, tell us about that trio that Sam Clover mentioned.
Well, thank you for having us, John. We really appreciate you having us on your show. Well, my wife and I formed a trio in about 2011 called Empire Trio.
So she is part of the trio too?
She's part of the trio. Yeah, it's two singers.
Does she call the shots over you?
She calls the shots, of course. She's my wife. She's the boss. I've learned long ago. That's the secret to a successful marriage, right? Yes, dear. Yeah, no. She writes the show. She chooses the repertoire. I arrange it. We've had a very successful career touring the country with our trio. We've done upwards of 50 or 60 shows a year all around the country. I think we've hit about 47 states right now. It's classical crossover, and we're all classically trained musicians, but we love to do jazz and pop and Broadway as well. So we do shows which we think and hope that most audiences will like, because there's something for everybody in all of our shows. So,
how did you come up with the idea of putting Christmas and jazz together as one?
Well, that was Sam's idea. That was Sam's genius idea, actually. But when you think about it, I think, most wonderful composers of the Great American Songbook have written Christmas songs. And it's really the smartest thing to write, because you just keep playing them year after year after year. And there are so many incredible gems, or chestnuts as they call them, and everyone can be played as a jazz standard. The wonderful thing about the jazz idiom is that it's very versatile. So we can do Silent Night in 4/time, in 3/time. We can do a jazz waltz. We can swing it. We can do, your imagination is the only sort of limit. So what we're going to do for this concert is do a bunch of jazz standards that everybody will know, but we're going to take them apart and we're going to reconstruct them and do them in forms that people might not be familiar with. So if they do sing along, they're going to get caught out. But I think people will still enjoy it. And it's wonderful Christmas tunes. They're heartwarming Christmas tunes. And they're also songs that we hope the kids will appreciate and that they will listen with a new ear to these arrangements, something that they haven't heard before, something that's not been on the radio before, but is familiar with them. And hopefully by doing that, we can also inspire the next generation to perform and to think outside the box when it comes to writing and arranging music.
Do you go into a show like this with just a set standard playlist, or do you take requests or change it up along the way?
We've had a couple of requests, would you like to do this song? But generally speaking, we're going to see what happens. I mean, the musicians we're working with are incredible. We have, I'm bringing up their biographies right now. We have on saxophone, Stan Killian. Stan is from Texas originally, but he's worked with people like Sonny Stitt, Dexter Gordon, Don Wilkinson, Jimmy Ford. He even recorded an album with his trio. And when Roy Hargrove, the acclaimed trumpeter, heard it, he wanted to be on the album. So they actually went back in the studio to incorporate Roy into the album. So Stan is a tenor sax player. He's just so incredible. He's one of the only musicians I know who kept gigging all the way through the pandemic because he was creating gigs on the street and in, condemned buildings. He was playing inside, and so people could look inside. And he was just doing all these incredible opportunities for himself and other musicians. He was doing about 200 shows a year when everybody else was kind of staying at home. And then on bass, we have Mark Wade, who's also a modern jazz composer. He's for the last 5 years been listed as one of the top bass players by Downbeat Jazz Magazine. And he's played with a lot of great performers as well. And Scott Newman on drums. He's originally from Oklahoma. He joined the Woody Herman Orchestra in 1988 and has played with people like Dave Liebman, Ben Allison. Just looking at there's too many people to mention. I mean, he's been around for a while and played with so many Grammy-nominated artists. So, we're going into this concert knowing what we're going to perform, but anything can happen because, of course, the improvisations are all improvised. So no one knows exactly what's going to happen, but it's going to be good. When I tell the band to let loose, I'll be like, okay, guys, it's your solo. I'm just excited for that because I never know what they're going to do.
Now, you talk about how everybody in the group, everybody who will perform on Sunday, how everybody has worked somewhere along the way with a big name performer. For example, you have people who've worked with Tony Bennett, with Eddie Palmieri, also too, with Westchester's and Millwood's own Vanessa Williams. Do you ever get into a situation where you think about, well, we're doing this here today. It's not how I did it with so-and-so 8, 12, 15 years ago. How does all that experience that everybody can bring to the table, to the performance, match up and become one?
Oh, it's a great question. Wow. Well, firstly, every performance we do, whether it's Carnegie Hall or Greenville Church or a Black Box Theater in Wilcox, Arizona, we always give our all. We always give 110%. We always just want to make the audience enjoy the show, and we're very grateful because for people to come out to a live concert venue, especially in this day and age with COVID and everything else and the flu, there's a lot that goes into that. They have to get dressed and they have to put makeup on, they have to get in the car, they have to rally the troops, they have to plan a lunch, so it's not just a concert. The whole day is planned around attending live music. So we're always really grateful about that. And it doesn't matter if we're playing for Vanessa Williams or Tony Bennett. Those are a couple of people that I've had the pleasure of working alongside. We always just give 110%. And those experiences working with those people are so intimidating for someone like me who's a classical pianist. So all of a sudden I'm thrown in with somebody like, Vanessa Williams, and I'm playing pop songs that I grew up listening to her sing. And, that's kind of intimidating for someone like me. But if you can get through that, then when you end up working with your friends in a very wonderful, warm environment like Greenville, it's kind of like a dream gig, really. So all of our experience as performers doing the thousands of shows we've done together, kind of comes together, and it's just much warmer and much easier in this kind of situation because we know that we're around friends.
This is What's Happening in the Lower Hudson Valley. I'm John Marino here, joined by Senior Minister Sam Clover and Music Director David Shenton from the Greenville Community Church in Scarsdale. They'll present Jazz Christmas Sunday, December 18th at 3 p.m. Free admission and donations on your part, if you go to the show, are certainly welcome. David Shenton, think about this for a second. You get a request, and everybody's all in on the request. And then you come to realize, let's say it's the three of us as a trio. David, you know the song one way. Sam, you know this song a different way. I know it in a totally different way. How do we put that all together right here and right now on stage?
That's a great. Well, there's this thing I learned in the jazz world. If you go like that, put your hand this way, that means 5 sharps. This means 5 flats. This is 2 sharps. This is 2 flats. They have these terminologies. So we just all look at each other and we say, okay, let's do the Christmas song. And you put your fingers up. So you know that's in B flat. And you say 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And then you just go. And then everyone knows the changes. And then I always love what happens in jazz because, you know, I always say there are no mistakes in jazz. They're just happy accidents. Because your sensibilities and, you know, I'm more of a traditional jazz player, I guess. But the other guys in this quintet are really more, you know, they're versed in modern jazz as well. They have much more extensive harmonic knowledge about that kind of stuff than I do. So
much of jazz is about improv, right?
It's about improv, and it's about listening to what they're doing and then just kind of adapting to it and reacting quickly. So, you know, a jazz bass player, instead of playing a 1-5 progression of B flat, let's say it's in the key of B flat to F, a 5 chord for a jazz player might be a C flat because it's basically it's an alternate way of playing it. And if I put the F chord on top of that, it can be quite magical. And that's what really makes it sound more like jazz, is when you start playing around with the upper extensions of the chords and adding thirds, fifths, sevenths, ninths, 11ths, 13ths. And that's what these guys are doing. So I'll be on stage playing more basic chords on Sunday, more than likely. And these guys, the improvisations they're going to do on top are going to sound more magical because they're going to be doing more modern stuff on top. But generally speaking, as long as we know,
what do you do during the show? How do you keep busy, occupied? Because you're a big part of all this too, putting it all together.
Well, I'm going to let the musicians to do their work, but just to get back to the last question, I think one of the wonderful things about music and the structure of some of these songs is we all know them, and there's a logical structure and rhythm to them and harmonics, and a good group can lay those down, and we're going to be able to hear them no matter where they go. And if I can kind of bridge it to it, I'm a minister after all, to a theological understanding, is one reason I love jazz is because we all bring something to it as listeners or musicians. God made us all unique with unique talents and gifts. And one thing I love about the art form of jazz is that it is all about what we bring to it individually and uniquely. That's one reason why I love the art form. It's a uniquely American art form, you know, growing out of traditions of African Americans and also more European composers that all come together in this beautiful creation that's spontaneous. It's fabulous. And, you know, one of the links is a lot of great jazz artists have all been rooted in the church, in spirituality broadly. And that's another reason why I think it's quite natural for this to be happening at Greenville Church. So I love that about
life is a form of jazz.
I think
jazz is what life is about.
I totally agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, because
David,
yeah, I think so. Because I mean, I grew up as a classical musician where the notes on the page have to be played exactly as is, and there are certain ways to play certain ornaments and trills, and you know, the older you get and the more you discover about other music like jazz, you realize how freeing it is. And then you realize that people like Mozart, you know, he could have written any number of one of his pieces 1,000 different ways, and we know that he did. In Chopin's studies, for example, he wrote the first study 6 different times. So, but the one that's published is the one that's always played. But we know that he could have equally written a variation on that could have easily made it into the history books. So when you have jazz and you have the freedom to play around with what's already there, I think most composers would agree that they would enjoy musicians subsequently playing around with their music and seeing what else can come from it. Because if you take a genius composition like the Schumann Fantasy, you know, he wrote 2 endings for that, and then he decided to go with 1 ending. And the original ending was recently discovered, and people are playing it against Schumann's wishes. He never wanted it to be heard, but it's actually magical, and it makes you wonder what else he could have written. You know, had he lived for longer, and what all these composers would have done had they lived for longer. So, yeah, I think jazz is because it's more improvised and because it's more free, and you don't know exactly where you're going. It can be more linked to life because you never know what's going to happen. If I walk out the door right now to go and get lunch or whatever, I don't know who I'm going to meet. And that to me is like jazz.
That's a great way to put it. Reminds me of when I was on a religious retreat on Staten Island back in high school, and we snuck out in the middle of the night on Staten Island 50 years ago when practically nobody lived there. And we came at 3 a.m. to a 5-way fork in the road, which I know does not exist anymore. And to me, that's what life is about. That fork you take helps determine what happens to you next and maybe for many years to come. And what happens on stage on Sunday, the next note you play, obviously helps determine what direction you go in on stage on Sunday, too. Minister Sam Clover, give us the address of the Greenville Community Church, all pertinent contact information like phone number, website, emails.
Yeah, we're at 270 Ardsley Road. We're right near the intersection of Central Avenue and Scarsdale. Phone number 914-723-1266. You can reach us at greenvillechurch.org. We're also on Facebook. We hope to just see a lot of people there. It's going to be a great event.
And David Shenton, your contact info for anybody who might want to talk to you about a future gig.
Well, thank you. Well, you can go to showstoppernyc.com. My wife and I run an agency. I forgot to plug her bio, by the way. She's the most incredible singer. You know, I was just supposed to sing on the musician.
Yes, she is.
This concert is featuring my wife as the singer for this concert. So she has the most glorious voice. We're going to do everything jazz except for one number. We're going to do a theological number in the middle, which will be a surprise, just because I think it's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And it's a Christmas appropriate number. And I said, I'll give the guys a rest for 5 minutes while we do this number with Erin. So you can go to showstoppernyc.com, or you can go to empiretrio.com, or you can go to my website, which is shentonmusic.com, SHENTON music.com. And any one of those websites, you can get hold of us and send us a message. And, you know, we love to hear from people who come to our shows. And we'll do a meet and greet after the show, and there'll be CDs available from all the artists, by the way. And I believe Sam will be a reception downstairs afterwards where people can have coffee and kind of converse and meet and greet. Something we always love to do. I think we would both
agree that holiday music is truly non-denominational.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All are welcome. Come on in.
And we thank Minister Sam Clover from the Greenville Community Church in Scarsdale for joining us here today on Westchester Talk Radio, along with the church's music director, David Shenton. And upcoming on Sunday, December 18th, 3 p.m., the church will present a Jazz Christmas free admission. Your donation is welcome and will be accepted. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
You too, John. Thank you very much.
So good to see you.
Thank you. Great to see you guys, too, from the Greenville Community Church in Scarsdale here. What's happening in the lower Hudson Valley? Westchester Talk Radio. I'm John Marino, produced by Sharc Creative, and we are made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that service built. By Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armonk. Also by Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard. And by Jaguar Land Rover of New Rochelle, White Plains, and Mount Kisco, too. Catch all of our Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, Dutchess, Orange, and Fairfield County Talk Radio programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube. Download our app, Westchester Talk. Take it with you 24/7, 365. And yes, we are now on Apple Podcasts, too.